Spoiler alert, as I will be sharing some gameplay and objects that do come within the first 10 hours of playing the Tiny Bookshop, as that's as far as I've played so far. I won't be spoiling any other challenges or how to complete the main story. So this is the list of tips and tricks I would recommend for new players of the Tiny Bookshop so that you can be strategic in planning your moves as you get into the game. I've put 10 hours into the game so far, and although I haven't actually completed all the goals and objectives, I have completed most of the main story. I'm pretty far into it, and I would want to have these tips when I'm starting over. So number one, when you first start the game, it has a great in-game tutorial system. So they do teach you how to get started with your mobile bookshop business in the town of Buxton Bury. The town is made up of several areas that you can travel to, one location per day, to sell books to various customers. In total, there are 10 different locations within the town of Buxton Bury. There's Far Beach, Winterfront Square, Cafe Liberté, Lighthouse, Mega Marché, Castle Ruins, St. Brookston University, Rye Park, and the local hospital. Some locations are only open during certain seasons or have to be unlocked throughout gameplay. For example, the Far Beach is not open in the winter, which makes sense because who's going to the beach in the winter? Or for example, the the students are on break in the summer and winter, so it'll be less populated during those times. Each location also serves a certain kind of clientele, and that clientele may prefer a certain genre of book. For example, Far Beach has mostly kids and families, and so people come requesting kids books, fantasy books, and drama books in that location. So that kind of makes sense, right? You want to go to locations that are heavily populated by going on the right season during the right days of the week. And there's a very handy journal that they provide in game that helps you kind of keep track of the specs of each location, what type of books they prefer, what type of clientele works there. And there's certain main characters that you'll meet throughout the game who also show up in some locations more than others. For example, Walt, a local sailor, is mainly at the waterfront square. You'll probably never see Walt at Rye Park or the university. He doesn't travel that far. So if you're looking for a certain character to complete a quest or to celebrate their birthday, you'll have to go to a location you know they're going to actually show up. My second tip was that each character prefers a certain genre of books. So for example, Tildy likes crime and classic novels. So even if she goes to a location that isn't focused on classic and crime novels, she's more likely to purchase from those two genres. Another example is Harper, who you'll meet when you unlock Far Beach. Although Harper does go to many other locations, not just Far Beach, she tends to lean towards kids' books and fact books. So when you're at these various locations, even if that location is not focused on kids and fact books, she may purchase those books or ask for requests on recommendations for those kind of books. The third tip I have is to make sure you review the Buxton Bury Review every day. So every day there's a new edition of the Buxton Bury Review, which is the local newspaper written by another main character by the name of Fern. It tells you about the upcoming weather, any upcoming events, and also has a list of classified items and seasonal items that are for sale. The seasonal items are good for 28 days, so for each season. So the seasons are summer, autumn, winter, and spring. After the end of the season, the seasonal items will rotate. You must buy the seasonal items before new ones will show. So if you're tired of the same two selections every day, you're going to have to purchase one or two to get it to refresh some new options. Under the classifieds, there will sometimes be free boxes of books that you can buy, and some boxes you have to actually pay money for. Some of the boxes are variety box that have a little bit of each of the 7 genre of books in them, and some boxes only contain one genre. So it's important to make sure you read the description on the box of books to see if it's specifically to one genre or a variety. When it comes to the weather, sometimes the weather will affect the popularity of the book cart depending on what location you take it to. So for example, on days where it is rainy, you'll have less people coming to the book cart because less people want to come out in the rain. So that will kind of affect your sales for the day. So you just want to keep in mind the weather if you are trying to make a certain amount of money that day or complete a certain challenge. My fourth tip is going to be about purchasing objects. So besides purchasing things through the classified section of the newspaper, there are other ways to buy objects. So one example is certain characters will sell items. Walt, the sailor from the waterfront square, is an example of that. When you go to see him, sometimes during the fish market he does weekly on a Wednesday, he sells items if you go up and talk to him. Some of the items aren't cheap, so try to be strategic in what you buy, as objects can give you different sales boosts or sales effects, or they can have negative effects like an increase in your danger or increasing your daily cost. Another place that you can make purchases is the weekly flea market. So every Saturday year round, you have the opportunity to go to the flea market as one of your locations. And there's a couple people who sell things at the flea market. Tildy usually sells things, and she usually sells books or furniture and sells various plants. There's an art dealer who sells arts and paintings. There's another guy who sells random assorted knickknacks. And then sometimes there are seasonal shops, like in the autumn and winter, if you want to buy decorative items to decorate your mobile bookshop. Be sure to prioritize buying shelves when you can, whether you see them in the seasonal items or you see them at the flea market, because shelving is one of the best ways to have more books that you can take with you. When you first start off, you only have one bookshelf and you can only take 40 items. That's very limited, right? That limits your selection, and it limits what type of books you can sell if customers are coming up with specific requests. So try to buy shelving early in the game so that you can sell more books. Now, don't want too many books out at one time, because if there's more than 100 books in your book cart, it can sometimes give decision paralysis, which negatively affects purchases when people are overwhelmed with options. Shelving will be highly important towards the end of the game, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. The fifth recommendation is to try to buy interactable or activatable objects. So there are certain objects that you can purchase or that you're given by another character that can be interacted with. For example, Tildy will give you a typewriter. If you equip this typewriter to your mobile cart and interact with it when you're on a location, you can actually write your own novel. And then it will give you a manuscript. Eventually, as you continue to progress through the game, you'll be able to take that manuscript of what you wrote and get it printed at the printing press at the Buxtonbury University, once you've unlocked that option through a quest with Fern. Another object that you can interact with is the coffee machine. The coffee machine is kind of expensive, but it sells for one money per cup of coffee, and while equipped also gives you a +2% to drama sales. The caveat to the coffee machine is it only works when it's cold outside. People typically don't buy coffee when it's warm. So I had better success equipping the coffee machine later in the game when I unlocked a physical building than trying to take it around on my mobile cart, because people didn't really want coffee when it was hot outside. So in general, I would recommend getting activatable objects as often as you can, because that's going to add more gameplay and side objects that you can do. My sixth recommendation is also now about side quests. So not everything progresses to the main story, but it's still fun and enjoyable throughout the way. So some side characters who may not appear in your journal, but they are reoccurring characters in certain locations, can offer you side quests over time. One example of that is Tomaz from the Lighthouse. Tomaz is a aspiring thespian in high school, and he's looking for funding for a stage so that they can put on a production of Julius Caesar. Now, if you complete that, it does take quite a bit of donating money to his project so that he can buy different stage equipment and paints and things over time. And once you complete that, you can actually watch the performance of Julius Caesar. Completing Tomaz's side quest also helps you with the main character Klaus's side quest for his punk rock band. So sometimes side quests can tie into the main story, but sometimes they don't. It just depends. Another side quest is you can join the various clubs at Rye Park if you're interested. The different clubs meet different days of the week. For example, a writing club. And it's a really interesting way to kind of take a break from just selling books every time you go to a location. And then the final tip that I'll give you, which is a little bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to know how the game kind of ends up, you might want to skip this part. But at some point in the game, Tildy will give you a series of challenges in order to become the new owner of her former bookshop that she had that was near Cafe Liberté. This is a challenge that requires many side quests, and you have to work with other characters like Mary Ann and Moira to complete this. Once you've completed all of Tildy's requirements, she will then offer to let you be the owner of her bookshop, and you'll have a big grand opening. All the other main characters will come celebrate, and then you'll have the option to decorate both Tildy's shop and the mobile bookshop. So once you've gotten to that point in the game, every time you go to the Cafe Liberté part on the map, it will automatically take you to Tildy's shop. The mobile bookshop won't work in that area. And then you'll be splitting your furniture and items. So that's why I said earlier it was important to be strategic in what you buy and prioritize shelving, because you're going to want to have shelving both for the mobile bookshop and for the physical store location. And some of these interactable items, like the coffee machine, will be more beneficial in one than the other. So try to keep that in mind as you're buying decorations and furniture. You can make a lot of money doing it strategically if you make sure that you have the right boost for each location, selling the right books to the right clientele, and making sure that everyone feels that their request is being fulfilled. You get a little 5-second boost for book sales if you fulfill someone's request for a book recommendation. So that can also be incredibly helpful if you have the right objects to kind of boost up your sales percentages. So I hope these tips help as you continue to play the game. I did try to avoid spoilers as best I can because I want you to learn the lore of Brooks and Berry throughout your own experience and interactions with the main characters. Let me know in the comments below, did I miss any tips that you think would be helpful for new beginner players? Thanks for watching.